Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Next Level. I'm JVL here with my best friends, Tim Miller and Sarah Longwell of the Bulwark. Go and subscribe to the show. Hit the like button. Give us 5 stars. And then when you're done, go to thebulwark.com/events and sign up to come see us in Seattle or sunny Los Angeles. We're going to be doing a live show in Los Angeles, California in January with special guest Johnny Favs of the Obama campaign. We'll talk more about that later on down the line. But guys, this is supposed to be the Christmas getaway week. This is supposed to be nothing happening. And we are having one of the biggest news 24-hour cycles of the year. We have the passing of the omnibus bill with all sorts of good stuff in it, like aid to Ukraine. And I believe we've passed the Electoral Count Act finally. We have Donald Trump's tax returns becoming public in any day. We have the January 6th committee's final report. We have Volodymyr Zelenskyy arriving in the United States to meet with Joe Biden and address a joint session of Congress. And all of this while the world is basically just trying to finish their Christmas shopping. Where do we want to go first on the wheel? Do we want to go to tax returns? Let's go tax returns first. Sarah? Tell me about Donald Trump's
green room
tax
discussion
returns.
about gay priests, but
not gay priests,
okay.
gay Catholics. Sarah, go.
Yeah, I feel like we just did this, guys. I feel like we just had this conversation or just did this show when we did Charlie's show on Monday. Okay, on the taxes thing. So I don't think it's a huge deal because I do think the New York Times got a big chunk of his taxes. You know, somebody like black enveloped it to them a while back. And so, I think, and there's already been an investigation into his sort of tax fraud where he inflates the value of things so he can claim them as losses on his tax returns. And so he's basically, I mean, it has been like well established that this guy is a tax cheat. I think the question is like, and it's always the question I've had of reporters, you know, what do you think the political implications of Trump's taxes being released will be for his 2024 campaign? And my answer is just like it was before the January 6th committee when everyone's like, what are the political implications of the January 6th committee? And I was like, it depends on what they have, right? It depends on what's in there. If it's more of the same, right? If it is the inflated valuations, if it's the fact that he hasn't paid taxes, any like income taxes in I don't know how many years, we already know that. And that's already been litigated and voters don't care about it. Certainly not Republican voters. So the question is there like something new in there that is either criminal or in some way kind of provides new things to the narrative? Because the one way that I can see it making a difference is that, you know, talking about the focus groups. I don't have a focus group pod right now. We're off. And so I'll just tell you guys, we keep doing focus groups. Just did one yesterday. And in the focus groups, if you just
for kicks, just for shits and giggles.
I'm addicted. And
she's huffing focus groups.
I honestly, the one I can't stop. And I really want to know where voters are on Trump right now. 2-time Trump voters. And I'll tell you, I'll actually can tell you a little bit more about that later if you're interested. But on the point of when you just do 2-time Trump voters and you don't screen for their intensity or their approval of him, right now, they are very interested in looking at other candidates besides Trump. They're not that excited about Trump running. And the
like
main
Larry Hogan and Chris
reason
Sununu?
No.
Is that who they're interested in, Sarah?
I have not heard those names come up very much, unfortunately.
Okay. Mike DeWine. Mike DeWine won a huge victory in Ohio. Are they interested in him? No? Oh, okay.
No, he's not been met. He doesn't come up very often.
Fair enough.
You know, it's all DeSantis. It's all DeSantis all the time right now. I think that's
the guy
shallow,
who's just like Trump, only he fights more. Gotcha. The fever is breaking.
Well, no, but that's not it, actually. It's not. So, but that's not it. The reason that they think that Trump, like that they're down on Trump, and they're not even down, right? They're not trying to break with him. There's nothing in his taxes that are going to make them be like, boy, you know what? I was wrong about Trump. Like none of that's going to happen. But the accumulation of his problems, are leading them to have a picture of Trump that he is not electable in 2024. And that is the main reason. They want to win. And so their main concern about Trump is that he can't build a big enough coalition to win. And so if the tax returns are just like another thing on top of the fact that a bunch of criminal indictments are going to come down, I think that like he is starting to seize under the weight, not just of the accumulated scandal, but also of the electoral defeats. And they are all working to sort of minimize people's excitement about him.
Sarah, this reminds me of 2016 when the Access Hollywood tape broke. Bill Bennett called on Donald Trump to drop out of the race, which, I guess in a vacuum, you could see that as, hey, good for Bill Bennett enforcing some moral standards. But the way he did it was he said, he can't win. He can't win, and it's a damn shame he can't win. So he has to drop out.
Yeah.
And so that's really what this is, right? It's like, oh, gosh, they done Trump dirty. It's a damn shame that he can't win, but he can't, so I guess we need somebody else. There's no, like, boy, this insurrection stuff was really bad. Nothing like that. It's just, great.
Yeah, I know how mad it made, but I'm sorry to report that two-time Trump voters are not going to tell you that they're sorry that they supported him and that they are now out on him. Like, that's never going to happen. But their only way psychologically for them to do this is not to just really grapple with why they were wrong. It is to sort of move on to the next thing, right? Well, I like Ron DeSantis and he can win, or I like, there's other people they like too, but they're looking for someone electable. So that's I think that everybody keeps being like, dude, look at the taxes. Could that bring him down? I mean, maybe it could send him to jail. I don't know what's in there, but like highly unlikely. And there's multiple other indictments moving forward, that are more likely to get to be serious trouble for him.
Yeah, if he goes to jail, it ain't going to be because of the taxes. Tim, talk to me about do you have any thoughts about the taxes, thoughts about the corruption of the government, where the IRS was not auditing him as required by 1977 law? No? Like, you ever just going to say this is just baked in the cake?
I thought that the reason... I'm a little confused because I did think that the reason why he couldn't release the tax returns was because he was under the longest audit in history, right? So he couldn't release them while under audit. That was the original reason for not releasing them. And then now it turns out that he was actually the only president not under audit. That seems a little fishy. The tax return story has never really been one that got my dander up. Partially because I don't really understand tax returns and I'm not exactly even sure what's in there. I waste money on an accountant to like concern himself with numbers for me. So I don't even really know. He sends me the final tax return and I just kind of like give him the thumbs up. I don't even really vet it. If the IRS is listening to this, I hope that doesn't get me in trouble. I don't know if I'm required to do anything, but I do sign it. But he's a professional, so I'm not exactly sure what's in there. I do think that there's still unanswered questions about his business dealings, particularly with foreign entities. Particularly with the Turks and the Saudis and the Russians, right? And so so additional information about cross-party debts being carried, et cetera. I think that there conceivably could be things worth knowing in the tax returns. I'm glad that they're finally out. I'm mostly glad that they're out because it makes him sad. And anything that makes him sad makes me happy, particularly here at the Christmas time. I think that it's just nice to be in the Christmas spirit. Or was
that's the main thing about it, right? Is that he's been trying to keep people from seeing them for so long. Like a thing that other presidents have done voluntarily as part of the norms, which by the way are not laws, we've all learned. But the norms that we have as a political culture of a president releasing their tax returns, he's the only one who hasn't done it. And he also has a lot of dealings with foreign governments that are worth knowing. And you know what? I actually would probably be, if he wasn't running again, I might be against it. Like if they were going to have legal proceedings against him for tax cheats, like they should do that. But like making them public, I'm not just to do it. I'm not sure I'd feel conflicted about doing that. But he's running for president again. So, sorry, that's the breaks.
I love your just kind of personal honor code, Sarah. And that's something that I admire about you and I appreciate it. And I aspire to have like an honor code like that personally. And I do my best. And some days I succeed and other days I fail. And just releasing private information about Donald Trump just to make him sad is something that does not violate my personal honor code, even though it probably should. That's where I'm at on it. It does seem like the pile on of the interesting question. I think the most my briefest thought on him and this before we move on, just kind of based on those conversations I was having in Phoenix, is like, come next March, come Memorial Day, do the Republican vote, because he's got a number of bad months ahead of him with very additional indictments and investigations. And, come March, come April Fool's Day, do Republican voters say, I've got to come to this guy's defense. These fuckers are coming for him again, and I'm mad about it, and I'm sick of it? Or are they like, he's getting screwed again, but like I've had enough? And I heard a little bit of both in Phoenix, and I think that's not really a great sign for him to even hear, some of that among the chorist of the core, people that are paying money to go hear Carrie Lake speak. So I think that is an interesting question, and like the tax returns are kind of one more just log on that fire.
While this is happening, we also have the January 6th committee final report dribbling out. Right before we got on, I started reading through the executive summary, which is itself like 157 pages. By the time we finish taping, I think everything will be out.
Thank God for Liz Cheney, by the way. Just on this front, my executive summary
do
thing.
Your thing.
Just like, isn't these leaks, the Washington Post, like these Democrats had to leak to the Washington Post that like Liz Cheney didn't want to put their little addendum in their section in, and like she wanted to focus too much on Donald Trump. It's like, thank fucking God Liz Cheney was in that room, or that executive summary would have been 572 pages, and there would have, they would have had to acknowledge the minor failures of Nancy Pelosi's like legal team, and like, we would have had to investigate the Capitol Police, and it's like the Capitol Police were doing the best they could. Okay, like if you want to have a separate report on that, that's fine, but we need something that people can digest, that helps them to understand that Donald Trump is to blame, and probably even the existing document is too long on that front, on the executive summary. So anyway, another 8 cheers for Liz Cheney as always here on the Next Level podcast.
So the executive summary opens with quotes from a number of insurrectionists, all of which basically amount to, I am ashamed of what I did. I attacked democracy. I was a traitor, and I can't believe I fell for this. I'm paraphrasing, but this is what is like, a dozen people quoted. And this is what all of them say. And one of them says, look, the president of the United States told me that the election was stolen. I saw him say it on TV. What am I supposed to believe? You know what? That's not crazy. And it gets, I would say reading through this, it is an indictment of everybody who just thought that you could put a psychopath into the White House and everything would be fine, right? All the people were like, well, whatever, it doesn't, you just put a psychopath in there and be fine. It is an indictment of all of the people who knew better and who just sort of went along with it, right? The Matt Schlapps of the world and the Rich Lowrys of the world who, you make excuses for them, and nobody actually believes this stuff, and you just put it in the best possible light, and it's all a game. It's all a game, right? And then it turns out like it's, to the rubes out there, it's not a game. There are people who take all this stuff totally seriously, and they went and did something really dangerous, which hurt a lot of people and ruined a ton of people's lives and got several people killed. And I gotta say, reading it, it just makes me angry that the people who get punished here are the cannon fodder, the foot soldiers, and the people who, like Donald Trump himself, who, I've been the squish who didn't want to go and prosecute him, and I've turned around on that. And but not just him, it's the enablers. It's the whole class of professional Republicans around him who enabled this to happen and are going to walk away from this absolute conflagration with nothing but more money in their pockets. That makes me really fucking angry. Sorry. I don't even have a question in there.
Was there a question? Yeah, it was
yeah. Well, so JVL, I write so infrequently for you at the Bulwark that I can remember the two pieces that I wrote post January 6th. One of them was hold them all accountable, and it was about, and it used Bill Crystal, our friend, gave me this Lincoln quote, and it was something like, it's Lincoln saying, should I prosecute the young soldier and not touch a hair on the head of the wily agitator? And it was a piece about how all of these people who stormed the Capitol were going to jail. They were getting legitimately prosecuted. And the rest, all of the people who told them, like this has always been I get a lot of heat for my defense of voters, even my defense of sort of Trump voters, but like they're being lied to by people that typically, I'm not saying presidents tell the truth, but like that they don't expect to tell unbelievable lies. Like that the election was like serious people. Like it wasn't just Trump too. The entire Republican Party fell in line. Kevin McCarthy, everybody told them, yeah, election was stolen.
When Tim Scott was asked about is the election stolen, he wouldn't say no. He was like, I don't know. You'd have to talk to the president about that. Right? They just wouldn't fucking say it.
That's right.
And Tim Scott's one of the good guys.
One of the better guys. Yeah. Because there's a real relative scale here. But the other piece that I wrote was called "What Did You Think Was Going to Happen?" Like, what did you think was going? And it was this idea of you take this liar, an insane con man who has no respect or interest in American norms and values and institutions, and only cares about himself and is an ego. Like what? And you empower him to like. What did you think the end result of that was going to be? And so, yeah, I agree with both of those things. And, I suspect that Liz Cheney, this obviously is a Liz Cheney stan podcast, but like, I suspect Liz Cheney wrote a bunch of that executive summary, like with her own fingers. Like, I think that Liz Cheney from the
with her own blood.
I think I don't think there's like a bunch of, I don't think there's a bunch of people. I mean, I think there are obviously lots of staff and lots of people who did a great job, but like, I think that she has taken this committee by like the scruff of its neck and has been the one really directing things. And I think that she I bet that's her. I bet that's her voice. I bet that's her writing a lot of it.
I think that there's good reason to believe that. I've reason to believe that beyond just what I suspect. But look, I two things on this. I think that I'm so happy that's how they led the executive summary. And this is the important part. And this gets to a little bit of what I wrote about, which we already talked about on Monday's pod about the TPUSA Fest, about how there's an element of it that makes me sad. Right? Like I'm just looking around this room and, there are people that know better. JVL, you already handled those folks. So I'll move on to the people that don't. And they're all still doing this all over again with Carrie Lake right now. And they're giving Carrie Lake $50 for a challenge. And I saw a Fox News headline this weekend that was like, Carrie Lake's challenge, judge accepts, Carrie Lake's challenge to the election. And it's like, well, wait, what actually happened was she had 10, filings, like 8 of them were dismissed, and 2 they're like, okay, well, we're going to need to see more evidence from you, right? And Fox is putting a banner headline on the website that like makes it seem like there's a there. She's saying to the room, I'm going to take this to the Supreme Court. Everybody's cheering. I think that the good thing is that that is a much smaller fish, than the president doing this, right? And so if you're just looking at math and if the president is fooling 60 million people into thinking that the election is being stolen and the country's being taken from us, then is it really that surprising that a couple hundred would resort to violence? No, right? And so maybe if Carrie Lake hopefully is only tricking 1 million people, right? Like that's a smaller pool of people for whom might be susceptible to violence, and maybe some of the most likely folks that have been susceptible to violence are getting their comeuppance and getting their law and order right now. And so that is helping this situation as well. But still, like there's other like real harms that are being done, and the harm that's being done is to the people that the fucking populists claim to care about. Right. And like that is the thing that is just so heartbreaking and enraging about all of this. Like that the victims of this, like the people that are in the front of that executive summary who are going to jail, well, and the real victims are people that died, and the cops and, you know, our friends Fanone. But like the second order victims are the people whose lives are being ruined by this, who are having to go to jail because they believed this bullshit. And the third order victims are their family, and the fourth order are the like people on a fixed income. They're spending $50, you know, to send into her Stop the Steal fund, right? Like all of these people are the ones that they claim to care about, and they're getting fucked over by this. And so I'm happy that they were centered in that in the beginning of this report. And that's an important element of the report, not, you know, because it speaks to that experience, but it also demonstrates why Donald Trump is responsible. You know, and like there's an obvious reason that he's responsible, and like you can get bogged down in all the details of this report, but like he's responsible because he convinced them to be there. He tricked them to be there. None of this would have happened without him, right? Like they weren't just going to violently overthrow the government on behalf of Mike Pence. Like try to, you know, they weren't going to charge the Capitol had Donald Trump just said, hey, you know, congratulations, Joe Biden. So that's why they're important. The other thing that I'm interested in, you know, we haven't seen all this, is just the full transcripts, which I'm happy that they're releasing of these interviews, you know, because other people will notice things and see things that will, I think, yield more information. You know, as good as the people on the inside of this committee are leaking select things to the Post and to whoever, you know, just open source always is going to reveal more stuff. I mean, just this Hope Hicks thing that came out yesterday or the other day about how, you know, Hope Hicks asked people around Trump to promise to tell him to say, you know, we shouldn't have violence, and he refused, right? Like that was, you know, just another little data point that we didn't know. Now we know because we've seen the Hope Hicks interview. I think that there's going to be more like that as they kind of release all the material.
So you made a point about the families. That's important. I don't know if you guys saw this, but a few months ago, The Guardian did a long story about Stuart Rhodes's kid and how he basically escaped his abusive home, right? And this is all being, you know, this is the second order stuff. And then I'm writing about this for the newsletter later this week. There's a new paper out looking at COVID deaths. And you will be shocked to learn that the COVID death rate increased over time, especially post-vaccination availability among people with high school degrees and less, right? And it's because these people are being fed stuff, which is toxic. And, you know, in the case of COVID, can result in their deaths. And I don't know. Like I look at it and I think to myself, my God, the Democrats, you know, pay political prices for being a little more hawkish on COVID because they're trying to save the lives of people who don't vote for them. That's nuts to me. It drives me crazy. Well, so we'll get some, we'll get the rest of the report. We have criminal referrals. As you said, I am interested in the next, you know, this is, let's talk a little bit of predictions here, because I wanted to do 2023 predictions late in the show, but we'll just do it right now. Because my look ahead for 23 is that the most important story will be the invisible primary. And that we're going to know a lot more about Trump's viability as a candidate. And also his energy and his stomach to actually go out and fight a war again over the course of the next 6 to 8 months, I think. And it is possible that the cumulative weight of all of this and his age and his sort of inability to roll himself out of Mar-a-Lago and go get in front of crowds and be energetic and up-tempo, that it's possible that Trump, the guy, is really finished, which would be amazing. There. That's my 2023 prediction.
You think that he's going to be finished?
It was
a little kind of like Tucker Carlson's remarks. It was sort of meandering, and I couldn't get to. Was that a prediction there, or just a observation?
The prediction is that the most important story of 2023 is going to be how this invisible primary works out, and that one of the real possible outcomes now is that we find out over the course of the next 8 months or so that he doesn't have it, and I think we'll know that by the end of 2023.
I guess it's I don't know how there's a little bit of a chicken and the egg here because these two things are related, but I guess I would say the most important story is whether he gets indicted. and what the impact of that is on the invisible primary, right? Because if he doesn't, or if he does in the like Trump organization, overpaid, didn't report taxes sense, right? But like if he gets big boy indicted, right? Like for insurrection, for one of these, the referrals that came from the January 6th committee or from the Fani Willis investigation in Georgia, that is, I think, the biggest story of the next 6 months, because you assume that is basically the window when it would happen, 9 months, right? And they're not going to do it 3 months before the Iowa caucus. You could get right back into the election issue. So that is a 6 to 9 month thing. And I think that the question then is, okay, well, what is, because I don't know that any of us really think he's going to be behind bars. I mean, inshallah, who knows? But so then the question then is, what is that impact on the rest of the electorate? Is that a radicalizing moment? Is that bringing people to his side? Is that everybody saying, okay, good luck with your legal bills, pal? You have 120 million in the bank of our money you can use to pay for them, but we're going to start to focus on DeSantis and other stuff, right? Like that.
Let me ask you both.
There's an interplay between those two.
Two related questions. The first is, so Sarah, you just talked about a minute ago, the idea of these people getting their information and they have Trump telling them that in 2020 that the election was stolen from them. And then what did we think was going to happen? Do you think it would have made a difference if the main body of the Republican Party, for Mitch McConnell and Tim Scott and Glenn Young, all of the people, the Ron DeSantis's, if they had all stood up and said, no, this is wrong. Joe Biden won. He's the president. You remember Mitch McConnell held off on even shaking hands with Biden for weeks and weeks and weeks, trying to hold out as long as possible. Do you think it would have made a difference if the main body of the Republican Party had contradicted him? Yeah, that's right. And Tim, do
Listen, it's the.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sarah.
A difference? Yeah, I'll just say just briefly. Yes, a difference. I'm interested to see if I agree to the degree to which there would have been a difference to what Sarah said.
Well, yeah, this is the point. It's the difference between 70% of Republicans believing the election was stolen and 35% believing that the election was stolen. And I'll do my Republican triangle of doom, but what that is the radicalizing triangle in which. If it's just sort of, and that this is the toxic and symbiotic relationship between the right-wing infotainment media, the voters, and Republican elected officials and how they radicalize each other. And if you have the elected officials, if you can break that triangle with one of the points, which in this case is you're offering is the elected officials, it diminishes how much you can radicalize, how far you can radicalize the party. And because all of the elected officials jumped on board, right, then a much more this medium group of people, the people who say in the focus groups, I don't know that it was enough to change the outcome of the election, but I definitely think something bad happened. I think that, it was really shady. That is less is less present, and you really just have your hardcore people who are devoted to Trump and whatever Trump says goes. But hold on, I want to talk about the other thing. But if Tim wants to respond,
can I ask my second question though? Because the second question here is then, so what happens if he's indicted, and the Republican Party has to face a choice again, just like with the Stop the Steal stuff? Do they back him and say, yeah, looks like a witch hunt to me? Or do strategic silence or say, well, I don't know, I'm not going to comment on this. Or do they do what they should have done in November and December of 2020 and say, yes, this all looks very, very bad? Because I think that makes a big difference in terms of evaluating what happens to Trump practically within the Republican base. Yes? No?
Yeah, but here's the thing about this dynamic, and I agree with your point about the shadow primary being incredibly important, and I agree with Tim's point that the indictments are incredibly important, and how people respond to those are. The thing is the timing of all those things matters, and matters a great deal. And so let's say the indictments, and it also matters, right? The cadence of this is going to be important because it's also going to matter who else is in the race. So the thing about the focus groups, right? The inherent tension is they're not going to break with Trump. They're not mad at Trump. They don't think he's bad. They're just shopping for an alternative because they don't think he can win. And they're like kind of burnt out on his shtick. They don't hate it. It's just like not as exciting as it used to be. And so like they're kind of interested in like, does anyone else have some zhuzh for me? Who else can make me, send a tingle up my leg that's new and interesting? And for the most part, right, so that's DeSantis. And so right now, there's a bunch of known unknowns. And they are things like who runs against Trump and how early do they get in? Because if Trump gets indicted, if the indictments come down in January and nobody else is in, then all of the people are free to kind of side with Trump, right? They can side against the deep state and they can say this is a witch hunt. But they can also say, but this is why we need somebody else, right? Like there's like different ways that they can handle it. Now, let's say they're all in and the indictments come down. Let's say DeSantis is running, Youngkin is running, Sununu's running, Pence is running, Christie's running, Nikki Haley's, all of them. But then they're running against Trump. That's really complicated for them, right? Because they know the voters are kind of on his side. And yet they're looking for ins. They're looking for ways to knock him down. I do think that just generally the strategic silence seems to be the choice of most elected officials, especially right now and especially I think for a while, because what they want is somebody else to be for, right? The reason for DeSantis mania is that being affirmatively somebody else on the team, because otherwise you have to side against Trump with the deep state, or you have to side against Trump with the Democrats. You have to be Liz Cheney. But if you can be for Ron DeSantis, you are still on the team in good standing. And maybe you're not so critical of Trump, but you're like, this is why he has to step aside. Anyway, my point is that like the cadence is how people react it's gonna matter sort of where we are in the year and what's happening.
This is the key insight into why nobody that matters in the Republican establishment will actually do what you're suggesting there at the end, JVL, which is say, there looks like there's a lot here. He should be held accountable to for his actions. We can never do anything like this again, right? Like that's the responsible thing to say. And like that's the thing that only people who are on the outs or already out or in kamikaze mode, maybe that's at the most closest to MAGA person that could be is maybe a Chris Christie type, in the race. I don't even see a Sununu type doing that, or a Pence, really. Pence just was asked about this on Fox, said he doesn't want him to be indicted, right? So here, and because of the reason that Sarah points out, because they're all still doing the 5-dimensional chess about how to deal with him and still saying I need his voters, so I can't alienate his voters, so I can't do anything that alienates his voters, turns them in, sends me down the path to Cucktown with the next level crowd. And so I can't do that. So I have to do either strategic silence or do I'm concerned about the DOJ. Is there some politicization here? Or is there, have we seen some inappropriate actions, or, this is a partisan attack, not engaging on the details of it. And that's what they will all do, again, because they feel like they have to do it in order to move on from him. Or in order to move on from him without pain, right? None of them have ever been willing to take any short-term political pain to move on from him. And so they will continue to do the same thing that they always did. And eventually that'll work, right? That's the thing. And we're in year 7. So like, obviously it would have been better to pull the ripcord, way back at Access Hollywood or whatever, and say they're voting from Hillary and try to get rid of this guy. There would have been short-term political pain then. But that would have been the best thing to do. And obviously the second impeachment would have been your next real best option to do that. But so they're in year 7. Eventually it'll work. Maybe it'll work this time. But that's the reason why they'll do it.
All right. Can we move on to talk about Volodymyr? Yes.
I'm so excited about this. I'm so happy about Volodymyr.
So,
Volodymyr?
the president of Ukraine. Volodymyr. The president, Ben Parker, is going to be all over me for this. He is leaving his country for the first time since Russia invaded. And coming to the United States, he'll be on the ground only for a few hours. He's going to go first to the White House, then he's going to go to Congress. He's going to address a joint session. Don Trump Jr., who is almost the exact same age as Volodymyr Zelenskyy, went onto Twitter and called him a welfare queen. You guys have any thoughts about that? Oh yeah, said he is a welfare queen.
You know, when you think about somebody that's earned every dollar that they've ever accumulated, you know, somebody that's like got the blisters on their hands, you know, built something from scratch, right? A real capitalist, you know, somebody who's never gotten a handout or a hand up. Donald Trump Jr. is the person that comes to mind.
He's
a piece of shit.
There's a lot to talk about here. He is a piece of shit, but the big thing is this a trap for Republicans? Because I got to assume
I think
some sizable percentage of the party, you know, maybe it's only 10 House members, but maybe it's 40 of them, are coming around to where the voters are. And the Republican-based voters are really squirrely about giving aid to Ukraine right now. And I don't know how this is going to work out, honestly. Sarah?
I love this for the Democrats. This is the kind of thing that warms
we should say we love this for America. Not just for the Democrats.
We love this for America.
This is the purest. Honestly, the Ukraine fight is really the purest distillation. I can't fucking talk anymore. We're coming at the end of the distillation of the Never Trump Republican and Democratic coalition coming together. I mean, this is our shit now.
This is the best. I'm just like, Nancy Pelosi. What a move.
You want him to do a photo op with Liz Cheney, right? That if we get Zelenskyy and Liz Cheney photo op, the Bulwark explodes. Supernova.
Yeah, this is our sweet spot. Amanda Carpenter was saying this in the Slack where she was kind of like, baller move by Pelosi, right? And it is. Like, they're going to vote on this Ukraine aid. You got a bunch of these dopey Republicans, the Matt Gaetz types, who have decided to run this populist message that has been working, right? Like, you have seen the numbers tick up in Republican voters who do not believe we ought to be aiding Ukraine. This is how America First works in practical, which is, oh, no. Why wouldn't we help ourselves? Why would we help this other country? Why would we give our tax dollars to this other country? Because at some point we stopped educating people about how important it is to have stable democracies all over the world, to not have, dictators be able to just roll into those countries and take them over. You've got our flat out pro-Putin apologists on the right now. And there's plenty of them, Tucker on down. But there is still a decent chunk of the Republican Party. And this is, as much as the Republican Party has basically given up everything in service to Trump in terms of principles, like, the chunk of people who are still pro stabilizing democracy in the world is like still a real chunk of a meaningful chunk of the Republican Party. And so there are a lot of people who, Susan, not just your Susan Collins, is actually much deeper than that. Like Lindsey Graham, a whole bunch of people who want to welcome Zelenskyy, who genuinely will be moved by the idea of Zelenskyy coming here. And like, while the money is on the table in the omnibus for support and he's here, that's bold and it's awesome. I mean, he hasn't left the country, and for him to come here and to address the United States, man, I can't wait.
I want to correct myself. I actually undersold the quote. Don Jr. called him an ungrateful international welfare queen. So, that. Is that because they suspect he's going to ask for more?
Yeah.
I think I saw a quote somewhere where he said something like, he's going to say thank you, but it's not enough. And I say, you get it. So
we're sending Patriots.
You get that bag.
We're sending Patriot batteries over there.
Yeah.
Did you see this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yes,
yeah. I'm sorry. I still want America to try to defeat dictators. Brutal, horrible dictators. I still want that for America.
This is the clearest right and wrong issue, and besides the Donald Trump election in like our adult lives. I mean, it's just the side of the righteousness and the evil. It's very easy for those of us who are clear-eyed to tell. I'm happy to give him Patriot missiles. I'm happy that we gave him ammo and not a ride. And I was so pumped to see that he's coming. I agree, and I think that, to answer your question, JVL, it is such a trap. Because of exactly what Sarah said. And it's not just among the leaders, right? There is a meaningful chunk of the existing Republican voter coalition that's still You know, look, Republican voters are old. Okay, Republican voters are older. And they lived through the Cold War, and a lot of them still hate the Ruskies. And, you know, the 5 decades of Cold War propaganda, you know, that not all of them have shaken that off, right? Some of them have, but not all of them have. And so
I would be very interested in the polling breakdown on this by age, honestly, because I wonder if it's the young nationalist right that is more pro-Russia than the old boomer Republicans.
And I didn't hear a single defense of Ukraine liberty in the world at TPUSA. Nothing. Like I didn't hear it from one person I spoke to when I was interviewing the kids. I mostly just asked them like what issues they cared about. None of them said that. And obviously on stage, nobody was up there saying, "Send the Patriots, USA, USA." And but you could imagine that in an alternate world, right? It's like the Benny Johnson thing that I wrote about in his presentation was mostly like it's supposed to be kind of the lighter fare. It was the memes and like, you know, getting the kids excited and so it wasn't that long ago where like a Benny Johnson type performance would be, you know, Hulk Hogan on a dinosaur waving the American flag and like, you know, sending the new Patriots to blow up like the Russians, you know, and like Putin and like the little dolls to show that he's like a little bitch, right? Like that could have been a Republican thing not long ago. That's not what they did. You know, the memes are all about, oh, look at our border. Why are we giving money to Ukraine's border? It's something that here is the, you know, to your point about Elon Musk. JVL about how he's just like kind of not really policy with any of these guys, but instinctually with these guys. That's what he's tweeting about, right? Like he's gotten sucked into that kind of younger nationalist meme-ish, you know, side of the party. Funny aside here, I'm here at my parents' house. My dad asked me this morning, he goes, "Why are people so mad at Elon? I don't understand what's happening there. Everybody hates him now." And I was like, "Do I have the podcast for you from Monday? You can just tune in to the Next Levels Take Over the Bulwark podcast. You get fully up to speed on that." So that is not the whole party though. And I think that what Mitch McConnell said today, you know, being very supportive of giving money to Ukraine and passionately so, reflects a minority view, but a substantial minority view. And you know, these are all the types of voters. You know, this is very neatly aligned, I think, with your anti-democratic Republicans are crazy. You know, Republicans have lost their mind. Suburban voters that rejected Kerry Lake and Doug Mastriano, right? Like they are all neatly aligned with where the Democrats are on this. They will be watching the thing tonight or watching the clips of it on Facebook and getting a little chill and feeling pride. And like the Republicans have put themselves on the wrong side of that one.
Yeah.
You know, you talked about
America.
Fuck them up.
You talked about the clear right and wrong. There is a gentleman on the Twitters who took a stand. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but we have what looks like the last prosecution of a Nazi that's about to take place over in France. Have you guys seen this?
I've not seen it.
We've got a woman who was, you know what, you guys vamp, guys, just give me like 2 seconds to chase this down because it's really good.
Okay, you chase this down. I've got it, so we can get a little personal. We'll just do an aside. This is not, you know, this is a holiday episode, right? So we don't need clean transitions. I have a new niece. I have a new niece that just happened.
Oh,
Sarah, isn't
congrats.
that exciting? Just happened
That's
3 hours
exciting.
ago, right before. So we're taping this.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the hospital right after we tape this, and just we're gonna have a rowdy Christmas. This is like what a joy-filled Christmas here in our home. We're gonna have Zelenskyy tonight. We're gonna have a new niece. The Nuggets looked fantastic last night against the Grizzlies on live TV. I'm like the anti-JVL, Sarah. Do you watch Not My Party, or do you not watch it like you don't read the tryout?
I do it exactly like I read the triad, which is I watch it 50% of the time.
All right. And you'll want to watch this one because I tried to channel Sarah. I'm ending the year this year with just what a great year. We're doing nuclear fusion. We beat all the insurrectionists. In Ukraine, things are going better than expected. We got a Beyonce record. Liz Cheney showed us courage. Like, this was a great year. And so we're going to celebrate that with a new kid. So that's my vamping for folks.
And I gotta say, I hadn't thought about this till you started bringing up what a good year it is. But I remember, it must have been 2020. It was 2020, where I was like super optimistic, right? I was like Biden's elected, and we're gonna get through COVID and all this stuff. And then like 21 was a disaster. It was just, the Afghanistan was a disaster, and Delta resurged, and like no one was taking the vaccine, and we were all still getting COVID, and we were like back and it just and Youngkin won in Virginia, showing this backsliding, and we were seeing the field take shape of all of these election deniers who were going to run, and it was just bad. And my
year-end triad in 2020, if you can go back to read it if they just want to feel better now, was about how everything was the worst. I was worried about how we were all getting addicted to the worst. That was like my New Year's meditation essay that year.
That's right.
Here we are.
And this year was excellent.
Epic.
By all measures of, we finally did get to do all this is for Tim now, all the face licking. I didn't lick anybody's face, but like I gave a lot of hugs. I gave a lot of hugs, and we were back. Like I stopped. I haven't worn a mask. Oh, and you know what? I've gotten a lot of weird viruses. I'm sick again now, but like, because our immunities are all broken.
That's freedom.
That's okay.
That's humanity.
We did defeat all the election deniers. And Trump is heading into 2023 into the shadow primary so much weaker than we thought he might be.
And
good one.
One more little optimistic note. You know that when in the article today, how I wrote about that gentleman who's on a one-way trip to Cucktown, the young guy at TPUSA who I talked to, who is like, I don't know if Carrie really, this stuff is really right, and it seems like she's faking it because she wants to be Trump's VP, and I don't really believe this stuff. And like his friends were like, "What are you talking about?" And so we became friends on Instagram, and he just sent me a message. Read your article. Think you got this one mostly right. I think we might be winning one recruit. we might have won one recruit from the MAGA. Slowly but surely, it's happening.
That's a high effort audience development play. Okay, so here's the story. The Jerusalem Post has a story in what may be Germany's final Nazi trial. 97-year-old Irmgard Fürkner has been found guilty for being complicit in over 10,500 murders at the Stutthof concentration camp. Okay? Pretty clear.
That seems bad.
Good and bad, right? Pascal Emmanuel Gobry of the Ethics and Public Policy Center, retweets this with, "What is the point of this? It is a religious exercise." Yes, we should stand up for the rights of former Nazis who were complicit in concentration camp murders.
That is depressing, JVL, but here, I'm going to spin this as a positive. One of the other things, these assholes, Peg, and these fuckers, they haven't had their comeuppance yet, but a lot of people got their comeuppance this year. Those, a lot of those Oath Keepers did, and this Nazi did, and SBF did. And so, Peg, suck it. That's what we call law and order, big guy.
All right. Before we get out of here, any thoughts, things for the holidays? Sarah, I was in the city last night, as is my wont. Saw Into the Woods. It's a tremendous show. I mean, living in the center of American cultural heritage is really, it's just an amazing experience. I wish you guys could all live like this.
But JVL literally last night, he was like, "Oh, I can't edit your thing until after 11." And I was like, "Why?" And he said, "I'm in the city for a show." I was like, you go to more shows now than the theater gays on my Instagram.
I get texted every time he goes into New York. And he just sends me like selfies, or like last night was like a Phantom of the Opera. And just to make sure that I know, because he claims he's a New Yorker now, right? I don't know if you know this, but
I've heard.
That's what kids do. That's what the real New Yorkers do. They send pictures of themselves in the city.
Right. And Broadway. And the Broadway shows. Yeah, that's... but also he's just trolling me because he sees so many more musicals than I do.
I mean, he's seen like 100 musicals this year. Where do you find the time? You're doing a newsletter every day. You got podcasts. You have 17 kids. And yet there you are. You're coaching a poor middle school women's basketball team. I got him. Where are you sleeping? What's a day look like for you?
Well, no, I don't sleep obviously, but this is hand to God the truth. From the time I got into the car last night till the time I pulled into my driveway was 35 minutes. Like it is as easy to go in and see a show as it is for, for Sarah, for you to drive downtown.
This is what people that live in Reston always used to tell me about being in DC. It's easy. Get into town 2 minutes. Whatever. Right there. Come out to visit me. We can have a barbecue.
Yeah, and Tim, I think you'll agree with me that people who live in Reston are not from DC.
I do. Live in DC. I do. I gladly side with Sarah. People loved the Smash or Pass. I know we're out in the last episode. So should we leave people with one last Christmas Smash or Pass?
Smash or Pass. I don't know what that is.
Do you know what that is?
No.
It's when we were talking about whether it's when we're talking about whether that's what the kids do, whether Santos was kissable or not. It's like I would pass on smashing him or I would smash him. And so I guess
wait, is smashing good or not good?
Kissing, yeah.
Smashing is that they don't call it snogging anymore or canoodling? It's smashing.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, smash or pass.
Good. All right, let's play Smash or Pass. I'm into this.
Volodymyr Zelenskyy.
I don't want to play this. I wanted to talk about something different.
Okay, go ahead.
The show's over. Last thing,
go.
Sarah, you get the final word of 2022.
So while you were looking up the Nazi JVL, Tim and I were talking about all the things that went right in 2022. And my question to you is, and we even forgot a bunch. Like when as soon as Tim said women's basketball team, I was like, oh, Brittany Griner came home. Like another huge, great. Okay, so JVL, you're always dark, but come on, it's been a good year. What can you get? What's your joy? What happened this year that makes you happy?
It's been a great year, honestly. This year, everything has basically gone like 5% better than I thought it could. Oh, God, it itches. It feels weird to talk like that. It's very strange, but it's true.
All this bipartisan legislation, you know what? In this omnibus bill, the Electoral Count Act is in this omnibus bill. If you had told me, I would have argued
because Joe Biden is an incredibly
successful
president who should run for re-election. That's why.
Okay. Just focused on the positive.
That's a different conversation. But the Electoral Count Act, I was not sure that there's any way to get that done. And here it is.
Yeah. I didn't even get to make it into my Not My Party. I already taped it. So it didn't even get mentioned. It's such a good year. Such a good year. The good things happened that didn't even make it to the good year roundup.
Yeah. Yep. You know what? Trump will not be. It will make it much harder for any president to try and do again what Donald Trump did.
That's true.
Hell yeah.
All right, everybody. Hey, have a happy holidays. All of the holidays. Enjoy them. Have a good New Year's. I hope that you guys are safe and get to be with all the people you love. Tim and Sarah, I love you guys. For reals. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, come and follow us. And if you're in Los Angeles or Seattle, come out and see us in January and we'll hang out. It'll be a really good time.
Or come down from the Bay or everywhere else to LA. Come down from anywhere. Californians. Yeah. Night in Hollywood. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Peace.